Hello YouTube, Gaming Goddess here with a review on Atelier Firis, the Alchemist and the Mysterious Journey. Developed by Gust for the PlayStation 4, the player takes on the role of our main protagonist Firis, a young girl who lives in a secluded mining town where no one can enter or leave without special permission. Firis dreams of being able to go outside, and with the help of Sophie and Plakta, Firis can make her dream a reality. So with that being said, let's get into the review.
I've been inside this town ever since I was born.
First, let's take a look at the gameplay. Like in previous Atelier games, we have a time limit to complete our goal. Now, I'm not a huge fan of this feature in general, but I feel like this one is a little bit easier to work with. Each quest and side quest doesn't have a time limit on when they need to be completed. As long as the main goal is done before the end of the year, the player should have no problem getting through the game. Of course, as the player explores, gathers materials, synthesizes, sleep, and battle, the time will pass. So keep the main goal the #1 focus, since after the license exam and credits, the player should still have some free time to do any of the side quests they wish to do. So let's talk a little bit more about the exploration in this game. It is a bit different from previous games and feels a little more open world in my opinion. The player can run around gathering materials, visit different areas such as towns, villages, dungeons, the ruins, and on the bright side, synthesizing isn't bound to one location. The player will be able to find campsites to set up the Atelier. I personally like this feature. It's real unique. It makes synthesizing a lot easier in my opinion, since the player doesn't have to go all the way back home just to do alchemy. I haven't seen this particular feature used in any of the other Atelier games before, but I do like it. Once you reach a certain point in the game, you can go fishing. You guys know how much I love fishing, but I'm kinda disappointed with this mechanic, only because it's real easy to fish. I mean, there's no effort put into it. To go fishing, you just go to a spot, press the X to begin, and when you see the exclamation point, press X again. Real simple, no effort whatsoever. Finally, there is a weather system. As the player is exploring, the player will experience light rain, thunderstorms, fog, etc. Exploration is a pretty big part of the game, and with exploration, the player is bound to run into a puni somewhere along the way. Let's go ahead and take a look at the battle system. Since the monsters will roam freely on the field and in the dungeons, the player can run up to them and whack them with Firis' staff. This will start the battle. Up to 4 characters can be in the party at a time. Items, weather, and the time of day can affect the enemies on the field. Once in a battle, the player and the enemies will take turns attacking. Depending on the attack, item, or skill the player uses will determine the wait time. By attacking an enemy several times, the player can inflict a break which will make them unable to move. Once an enemy is stunned, they will recover on their own, or the player can attack them again to do even more damage. As the player performs different actions, the gauge on the left-hand side of the screen will fill. This allows the player to perform a chain burst. Any characters that move consecutively can use a combination attack. Last, all characters can use items, though it is slightly limited as to what items they can use. Of course, the Alchemist can use all types of items. At the end of the battle, the player is rewarded with items and experience points. Like I said previously, synthesizing isn't bound to one location. When the player finds a campfire, the player can set up the portable Atelier. This game does have some new features added to the Atelier, such as a decorating feature. Different items can be made, like the fan favorite barrel, a new bed, and so much more. These decorative items can have special effects on them that will help the player when synthesizing. Now, during my playthrough, I was unable to make any decorative items with effects on them, so this didn't really help me much. Lastly, the player will get ideas for different recipes by doing synthesis, reading alchemy books, and of course exploring. Overall, alchemy is pretty straightforward and works about the same as in previous games. That concludes the gameplay portion. Let's now take a look at the graphics and audio that Atelier Firis has to offer. This game features both the 3D models as well as the still images. Aside from that, the graphics in general are very pretty. I love the pastel colors and the character designs. Of course, the only thing that bothers me is the occasional clipping. As for the audio, this game can be played with either English or Japanese voice acting. Of course, the game isn't fully voiced. The background music is always a nice touch to these games since it doesn't have a super annoying soundtrack. Each area will have its own background music, and of course, normal battles and boss battles will have different music as well. While in the Atelier, the player can switch the game's music to a previous game if they wish to do so. Now let's take a look at the pros and cons based on my opinion. First, some pros would include a good story, pretty graphics, nice background music, being able to change the background music, a portable Atelier, a more of an open world feel, barrels, costumes, and of course being able to decorate the Atelier. As for the cons, the time limit is back to haunt me. I wish the fishing mechanic required a little more effort than just pressing X, and of course the occasional clipping. Overall, Atelier Firis is a pretty good game. It's just your typical Atelier game but with new features to keep the fans entertained. I love the art style, I enjoy the story, the music isn't super annoying, and this Atelier game is the first to feel like a semi-open world game. There is no hassle with traveling by map as the player just moves from one location to the next. I do like the fact that you don't have to travel all the way back home just to use the Atelier, as there are plenty of places to set up camp. I always find the Atelier series to be real cute, and they always end up having multiple endings depending on if you complete your goal or not. Of course, the time limit does make things a little bit more challenging since I tend to spend way too much time synthesizing items or fighting monsters. But aside from that, it's still a super fun game and can be played when you have some free time since it doesn't take a whole lot of effort to get through. Atelier Firis gets an overall rating of 8 out of 10. It may not be my favorite one in the series, but I do enjoy a lot of the new features. If you enjoyed this review, remember to leave a like. Also, leave me some comments with your opinions on this game, or if you just want to say hi. You know I love reading what everyone has to say. Follow me on Twitter, subscribe, and don't forget to support me on Patreon for extra goodies. This has been a Gaming Goddess review. And remember to keep on gaming.